maybe someone has to shift countries, states, whatever, to be together. You've got a kid now, throw that in. Okay, financial pressures popped in. The individuals are not the same as they were when they met.
There's those neon signs that appear. There's those first few fights that really set the tone for how the relationship is going to be. Who's going to be the one who's going to take it down? Who's going to bring it up? I mean, those things are very, very in your face. From the first month to the first 6 months. Namaste, amigos. This is Vanessa and Aisha, two wildly passionate women coming to you from opposite sides of the world, Australia and Mexico. This podcast is for you, about you, all of us, all women from all walks of lives, sharing our stories, our truths, our struggles, as we uplift, transform, break boundaries, and grow.
Hello, people. Hey, Vanessa, how are you?
Hi, Aisha.
Okay, today's topic, guys, is a funny one, but I'm pretty sure that most of us have experienced it in some way. And now we can look back and laugh, but I'm calling out to all the men and women that have gotten married or in a relationship and they love that person for who they are, love them, and they're attracted to that passion and fire and everything. And then once they're married, it's like, no, I want you to change. I loved you for all that shit before we got married, but now
now you irritate the shit out of me, and please change.
You don't like that you're fiery and shit, apparently.
We tend to do that, don't we? I think it's more of a woman thing. I hate to say that.
No, I don't know, man.
I think we are evil. We are evil.
No, but I disagree with that.
I think men, I've got to give it to the men on that. I mean, they're much simpler creatures than us when it comes to things like that. We are like, you know what we do as women, unfortunately, and it's funny because, you know, I love you, you're perfect, now change. Only a woman would actually have a quote like that, because we idealize, we have a condition inside of our little brains of what happily ever after is supposed to look like. And then we're found with this perfect human being. He comes in his shining armor and he's perfect. And he shows us how perfect he can be. And then we get stuck on that perfection and we roll with it. Our brains kind of roll with how perfect that could be. So he starts to screw up. And then we're still thinking of how perfect he should be or he could be. So we kind of like get stuck in this image of that perfection that was like a blink of an eye. And we're not actually looking at the person for what they're actually showing us. We're looking at it for what he should be, how we saw him he could be.
Yeah.
And so we're not really identifying with the actual being of what we are seeing.
And you know, that's a tricky one, right? Because
super tricky.
Because you got to look at it this way. Okay, so when you're single and you really don't have much accountability except for yourself, you don't have a house together, you don't have kids together, you don't have that responsibility, you're sort of free flowing, and you meet this person that, you know, pretty much mirrors that state, you're really in a good, you know, good space together. Then circumstances, life creates a different environment. So, okay, now you're married, you have a mortgage, you've got to even maybe live together in the same household, you've got maybe someone has to shift countries, states, whatever, to be together. You've got a kid now, throw that in. Okay, financial pressures popped in. The individuals are not the same as they were
Right.
when they met, right? Because the circumstances have also changed that. However, the mindset is stuck back in that time, right? So, and it's from both sides. This is what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
hey,
You're
you
right
know,
on that. Yeah.
because if I was opinionated and appreciated before because I really spoke my truth, um, it becomes uncomfortable if, say, I'm doing the same thing, but there's extended family involved,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Now, if the man was very, very nurturing to you and caring for you and was there and supportive, but now that he's got to pick up extra load of work, he's got to do that, he's running late because you've got a kid and he can't be that attentive to you, now you have an issue too, right? So I think that's why it's tricky, because both the partners are actually mindset wise stuck back in that time and not progressing through like what life is making them grow through, right? So it's like, you now I realize that you have a moment, in that moment, to choose to grow together or grow apart. And that most of the times, because what you said, we are so stuck in what could have been, because what it was, we're fucking comparing to what was. Our fucking life is not the same. You're not fucking free. You're living together now. You got a kid, you got a mortgage, you got bills to pay. Shit's changed, right? You got extended family members now. You got other people in your life. You got his friends, you got your friends, and it's like people are not growing through it and sort of setting new expectations and sort of
That's
growth.
it.
It's cause they're still trying to fucking play by the old rules. And I'm like, no, nothing can be so set. You literally have to, and look, 5 years into your marriage, shit's got to change again, right? 5 years after that, you got to reassess. So it's never going to work one way. And I think that's why we get stuck in this whole, I want you to change now, because something's not matching. It's not matching because we're not reassessing the current situation, right? We're not fucking having those fucking, mate, you go to work, you are part of a business, they have fucking meetings, right? To look at where their company is growing and where it's not, and they fucking sort that shit out. How many times do partners or a relationship or a marriage, how many times you sit down and have a fucking meeting, a family meeting, that, hey, this is that's what I was expecting, this is not what's happening, how can we grow, how, this is lacking behind, how, because there's no communication, there's no, what we don't value, we value a business, we value someone else's business, and we show up on time. But if I sat down and I said to a person now, hey, if you really want your relationship to work, and you don't want to feel like you need to change, who you were, and you don't want to have those feelings, how willing are you to have a fucking weekly meeting? I want to see how many people put their hand up.
And I think it's that. I think, I remember in my own experience, it was that when we moved, and we had moved from New York to the Virgin Islands, and I was not working,
I
not
can't
working.
even
So
imagine
all of
that
a sudden,
contrast.
he grew, and his whole, his whole business and career moved, and then he didn't have any time for me, who had left her whole life.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm like, okay, things are changing, and you're not like
Who you used
caring and holding me and kissing me and telling me that everything's going to be okay because you're too stressed. And so now I'm nagging.
Yeah.
And then to mix it all up, then I put a baby in there and just really like shook it up with some ice, and that was just fun. But I think that you're right. None of us want to be like, okay, well, let's talk about a relationship after a day of work.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, no dude wants to come home and deal with his nagging wife of why the relationship is not working, or woman for that matter, right? Because it takes a lot of energy out. But you're right. Instead, there needs to be a place where when one starts to feel where the balance starts to shift, say, hey, we need to reassess because something's off.
Yep. And I think, that's a conversation you can have very early on. You can actually say, when circumstances change, we are going to have to, as individuals, adapt. So we will also become different people, but different versions of us. Hey? So when we're going through those growth, and that's going to happen so many times over and over again in a relationship, let's always assess that. Let's fucking connect. Let's see what we can do with that, because I'll tell you something. Say, imagine a guy's really working hard, and he just is physically worn out, and he's got mental stress at work, but his wife sees that every time he comes home, he's not interested in her, and she's just had a baby, and she's making pictures in her mind, and making thoughts in her head going, oh, he's not, doesn't love me anymore. He's not interested in me. And that's what creates the crater, right? Because she's just assuming based on her experience, and he is just thinking he's being great because he's just tired and he needs to just take time to sleep or rest or just veg out. And I think that's why every time there's a major something, there is always major like things in life that come across, but you can have this conversation. There are live-in relationships now. People have multiple relationships. People have experienced this. We're not ignorant to the fact that relationships go through so many different phases, right? Now though, it's our responsibility to say, hey, we know this. Our parents had less knowledge of this because they stuck to the one parent. They didn't know what was going on, but we are aware. We're more exposed. We have the internet. We fucking know what's going on. I think it's the responsibility of people in relationships now, or going into relationships, to say, hey, this shit happens. What are we going to do about it when these things come up? Hey, let's always make a thing to like grow together. We have to we become different people as we grow. So look, our behaviors, our reactions, our responses are going to change too. What are the expectations, And
Yeah, and
I think that's
I think
healthy.
it's you're spot on. It's not. It's keeping that alive, keeping
Mm-hmm.
that constant communication of,
Yeah.
what is the expectation that is happening inside your head?
Yes.
Because most probably your partner has no idea what
Idea.
that
Exactly. And you
is.
know what? I tell you, for anyone that thinks that it's the partner, it's the other partner, and that's why this relationship has failed, you're fucking wrong. You know what? 10 years down with another person with a different
It's going to
face, you're
be the
fucking
exact
stuck in
same.
the same situation. What do you think? Like, everybody's having Instagram picture relationships every day of their life? No, man. No, they're not. So if you fucking think you're leaving one to go to another one because of that, or this one didn't work because he was always working, what, you think other men don't work? Or you think other women don't feel shit about their bodies when they have babies? Or all I'm saying is, you really got to understand, and fucking both people have to reassess, evaluate, speak, communicate. What you say is so spot on, of constantly assessing what is expected, right? And being authentically true to what I can give of that expectation.
Absolutely. I show you my playbook and you show me yours. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's, it's, it seems so simple, right? And yet
Yeah.
so many of us don't do it.
Do
And
it.
then we
Yeah.
wonder why we're not in successful relationships.
Yep. Yep. So, guys, look, yes, I loved you for that. Now I want you to change. It also makes sense because we do grow, we do change. So, uh, but try and change as a unit, try and work together, grow together. So that's what I would say, because you can't fucking be who you were when you were just hooking up and fucking trying to, date. And of course you can't. Shit's different. So think we change is fine.
And I think there's also a lot of things that happen while you're dating do come off I mean, they show themselves very early on in the game.
We ignore.
And you have to be authentic with yourself to say, oh, it's cute. Is it really cute? Like, because that's only gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Like if you couldn't stand it at the beginning, we see in any relationship, there's those neon signs that appear. There's those first few fights that really set the tone for how the relationship is going to be. Who's going to be the one who's going to take it down? Who's going to bring it up? I mean, those things are very, very in your face. From the first month to the first 6 months, I say. And so you have to be authentic instead of saying, oh, it's only going to get better.
Or I'll fix it.
I'll change that.
I'll fix it.
I'll fix it.
Fuck your fixing.
Like we don't have enough shit to fix on our own.
On that note, woman, let's wrap
that up. Aisha, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you on the next one.
Yeah, and guys, please don't forget to subscribe, listen, share, and leave us your feedback, comments, and appreciate you guys all. So until next time.